And the Biden administration's latest immigration order is providing some relief for local attorneys working with families caught in limbo. Our Marissa Cummings spoke with a Coastal Bend attorney seeing the changes firsthand.
Deborah Rodriguez is an immigration attorney for Rodriguez and Moretson in Corpus Christi. She says many of her cases have been made easier with President Joe Biden's executive orders, like lifting the travel ban. She says her clients from overseas can now rejoin their families and run the businesses they've had here.
Lifting of the Muslim ban was one thing that immediately happened, but probably the one that hit our office the most was the strengthening of the DACA policies.
During Biden's first day in office, he ordered the preservation of DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. But Rodriguez says the executive orders are only a temporary fix for her clients.
Having DACA kids protected, well, they're protected for the next 4 years. But what about after that? So any lasting change really needs to be legislatively done.
And that's what Biden says he plans to do with the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. The White House says the act will provide clearer pathways to becoming an American. In the meantime, Rodriguez says some of her clients seeking citizenship are stuck.
She's married to a U.S. citizen. She has 3 U.S. citizen children. They pay taxes. There's no criminal record whatsoever. I cannot fix them under the current law.
Rodriguez says if Congress passes updated immigration reform policies, her office will host free virtual sessions to help people navigate the new laws.
Thanks to our Marissa Cummings for that report. Rodriguez says one of the pitfalls that a lot of her clients fall into is signing documents they may not fully understand. So she advises anyone going through this process to seek out an immigration attorney for help.